2020, a year of many unforeseen challenges, where all had to adjust to a new reality. And despite it all, Got Kush TV was and still is here to serve you. And what a year it's been. We began the repatriation journey with our new show, Voyage to Motherland. We dropped the knowledge as you took your seats in the Kush Criminologist and joined us to hold a meds with the Aunt Doc. Got Kush TV invited you to get involved in conscious, controversial conversation and enter Decipher. And when the world went into lockdown, we kept you connected with the Quarantine Convos. We kept our finger on the pulse of the community with coverage of the Reparations Rebellion and the Black Pound Day all day. Not to mention more wordsmith and a slew of new music video releases for your viewing pleasure and the official launch of the Got Kush TV website. We also brought you events including Women of Power and of course Blacktricity. Now, in 2021, Got Kush TV is continuing to level up the thing. First up, we are pleased to inform you that gotkushtv.com is open to exclusive memberships. Sign up to any of our membership tiers and you will gain access to playbacks from all our events and an ever-growing list of exclusive original content, including interviews, documentaries, and shows such as Kush Criminologist. To become an official member of gotkushtv.com, simply hit the membership tab. Stay tuned for continued updates. Then there's the new shows. Look out for more Decipher, Wordsmith, Hold a Meds with the Aunt Doctor, and weekly episodes of Quarantine Convos focused on health, wellness, education, and inspiration for our community. As always, the Got Kush TV film team is available for hire to cover all your events, adverts, infomercials, and all filming needs. Visit us at gotkushtv.com for hire inquiries and more information. Stand by all black businesses through our website, social media, and show content. We have monumental advertising, sponsorship, and network opportunities catering specially for you. Check out the advertising page on gotkushtv.com for more information. Got Kush TV is in full flight to join us for the ride. There's 4 things you can do. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell to make sure you don't miss a release. Join us on all social media and hit up gotkushtv.com to subscribe to our mailing list and sign up to become a Got Kush TV member for exclusive opportunities in the near future. Let us know you are feeling our content by hitting that ever so important button of approval. Comment. We want to hear your feedback on everything we are putting out. So make sure your presence is felt in the comment section. Share. Spread the word by hitting that share button and exposing your circle to the magnificence that is Got Kush TV. We are looking forward to building with you throughout 2021 and servicing you with high quality black media production. Got Kush TV, beyond discussion, beyond debate, we put the power in black media. Blacktricity, Got Kush TV's exclusive pre-Kwanzaa showcase is now available for you to watch absolutely free. In conjunction with Ghana, the On The Return series, we have brought the African diaspora experience directly to you. To watch this monumental event absolutely free, simply register for membership at gotkushtv.com and you will receive access to Blacktricity as well as more exclusive content, including Reggie Rockstone, Yusufu Jallo, VVN, Malaku Selassie, Daddy Makes Dough, Tods, King Wiz, Tubada, Ras Ashiba, Mama Sia, Brother Leader Bandaka, Israel, Sister Moots, Carla Marie, Yemaya Sankofa, Goldflow, and a special Voyage to Motherland panel discussion. All this and more, hosted by Nat Nye and Stella B. Register now at gotkushtv.com.
Should more African nations join the Year of Utaya?
I would say every descendant of Africa should go home.
But the same things are happening. The tax money is still coming back to Europe.
How do we contribute to the decolonization of Africa?
So if Africa is our focus, are we then neglecting the Caribbean?
The year returned so successful, 1.9 billion. 1.9 billion. All of a sudden, the whole world shut down.
Making sure that people on the continent see the real picture of how we live here.
Welcome from Ghana, Accra.
Enter Decipher.
Quarantine Convos. Enjoy weekly discussions with people from around the world, assisting us in dealing with this normal, mentally, spiritually, and physically. We feature nutritionists, psychologists, therapists, personal trainers, home educators, legal experts, and more, bringing you all the information and inspiration you need. Check out Quarantine Convos every Thursday from 7 p.m, live on Got Kush TV.
What 1 2 microphone check 1 2 1 2. I mean in the place to be with the one and only Got Kush TV. It's Quarantine Convos. Yes, indeed. We're there. We're in the house on this Thursday, the 15th of the month they call April, and it is 6 minutes past the hour of 7 p.m. UK GMT time. And you don't know, so kings and queens, you're in the right place. You are most definitely in the right place. So hold tight. We've got a fantastic, beautiful, wonderful, and amazing conversation with a very, very powerful, very, very powerful, influential, and you know what I mean, let's just say, you know, the brother is doing serious work in our community, and we want to expose that work to you, kings and queens. But also, we've got at least one other purposeful individual to speak to today as well, in relation to some of the things that are happening in our global Black African community. So do stay tuned, family. But without why is it coming through? Please like up the video and share it far and wide. Like up the video and share it far and wide. Check out gotkushtv.com for all your Got Kush TV information, and make sure you sign up to that mailing list. Yes, indeed, kings and queens. This is going to be an important conversation, so do stay tuned. Without further ado, you know, some man don't fly solo on the Quarantine Convo. So let me introduce you to my wonderful co-host. She goes by the name of Sister Mutt. When you're ready, Sister Mutt. Blessings. You good?
Yes. It's been a deep week. It's been a deep week because we were talking only last week about DMX and, you know. And
the dog.
Well, the thing for me, I'm going to be honest. I come from that. I come from that realm in terms of that 90s era and things like that. And he had from what I know, he had about a 4-year stint. Yeah. And in that time, he did, you know, I think it was 1997 to 2001. I learned so much this week. Honestly, I was on a few lives and I heard brothers talking about him, and you know, it was really refreshing. To hear brothers really speaking about this brother with so much passion. I was like, oh, let's get so it was amazing. And I really learned so much about the brother being, you know, I remember only Rough Riders, really. I was kind of an R&B chick. So, you know, I was kind of like, you know, yes, he was around the time of like Onyx and Naughty by Nature. And they all had something in common, that the alpha. Yeah. And it's like the death of the alpha. That's what I'm hearing to men. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah, it's like the death of an alpha in the community. Men are not made like that anymore in that sense. And I think he offered something. He was relatable, but he also I think somebody used the terms wounded warrior.
Yes,
and that's what he was to a lot of people. He was wounded, and he had like a dual energy about him. He was able to share what he needed to share, you know, about his life in 2 different ways. And I think that was really powerful. I really think that was powerful. I learned a lot this week. So I respect the space for our brothers who are mourning him.
Yes, sir.
Trust me. Yeah, I learned something, and I like a space like that. And I also heard from another space, you know, there was people coming after him, you know, in terms of like, you know, the feminist movement. I'm not a black feminist, by the way. Sorry for anyone who thought I was. And that's not me. So, you know, I just thought, okay, you know what? This is not a Jimmy Savile moment. Yeah, like, you know, he has passed away. You weren't coming for him when he was, you know, alive. You had nothing to say about the guy. You didn't even know the guy. Yeah, let's be clear. So, credit where credit is due. Yeah, there are things that happen in the world, but let's not jump on that and let's try to take down a brother simply because he says something you didn't like, that you didn't even know he said until he died.
Yes, yes. Well, I could be here all day talking about DMX. Yeah, like DMX, man. Like, you know, when it comes to artists and influence on man and people that I've listened to intently, DMX is one of those artists. Yeah, from a long time, had a very major impact upon me. In my you know, in my teens.
Sure.
And yeah, put it this way, with all my upbringing in the Black conscious community, yeah, it gave me the tools to really appreciate a brother like DMX, yeah, because he says some things that are very challenging, but you understand where he's coming from in the sense of the pain that he's bringing through, but the help and the redemption that he's also seeking through this artistry, through this medium called hip hop. And rap music, yeah, and you understand that it's therapy for him. You also understand that he's constantly trying. He's living with a lot of demons that he's constantly trying to battle and fight with, and that comes out in the music. And a lot of the horrid, yeah, genuinely horrid things that he says are reflections of his actual life and his thoughts, yeah. But he was a very spiritual man, and that came through in his music as well. And you know, with a lot of the pain, he always tried to bring some hope, yeah, with it also. And I think that's why people connect with him. He never glorified. There are artists that glorify the gutter and the shaggy, yeah, and he wasn't one of those artists. You know what I'm saying? Like he gave it to you raw, and when he was dealing with gutter, you understood very well that he was dealing with gutter, and he never tried to pretty it up. He never tried to glamorize it. And so, yeah. So, and over the years, he's developed like a genuine following that got into him because of his music, but just wanted to see him well. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we never cared if DMX dropped another album ever in life. We just wanted to see him well. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And a lot of people were like that. Whenever you saw DMX and he was well, there was like a groundswell of just like, oh my God, DMX is in good shape. Do you know what I'm saying? Whether it was you saw him on a show or, you know, you saw him on an interview, if he was looking in good shape, people just give thanks for the fact that he's in good shape.
If he's good, we're good.
Right. And it was just like that. And, do you know what I'm saying? And that's just a testament to the kind of love, you know, that he put out.
And we have to remember he went through a lot. You know, I heard Roxanne, Shantae speak about it. It's great when I hear about the sisters speaking about them as well. You know, certain people were really engaged in that time. And sister, you know, she was talking about how he went to, you know, he was dropped off at foster care, you know, at 7, and his mum just left him there, you know, where he was tricked into drug use. You know, we have to address
these things
that in a balanced way. You understand what I'm saying? It was not an easy journey for the brother. And I don't know how many men could have carried on, you know, in the way that he has, because, you know, there's a conversation about how he used to do a prayer with his music as
every album.
Right? Yeah, don't let you correct me for sure. Don't if I ever say that, if I don't. Every hour.
No. It was and it was serious. It was noticeable. Do you know what I'm saying? Sis, I don't want to. Like I said, I could be here all day discussing DMX here and the influence of his music.
I have to do the DMX show.
Yeah, I know that it's mad, but I don't want to because we got we got to get through a few.
Some great things going on, and but, you know, but I do want to say this though, and I don't want to spoil it, but I do want to draw attention to something strange about the date in that. Yeah, because he passed away on the 9th of April. And you know, the prince here passed away according to sources on the 9th of April.
Fidem Prince.
Fidem Prince now. And then there, you know, we've had these conversations about Little Nas X, and his birthday was on the 9th of April.
Mm-hmm.
And that day in particular was 99 days into the year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of us know about 9, but 9 is significant of the awakening. So yeah, let's just watch this space with that.
Indeed. Give thanks, my sister. Give thanks for that. Right. Before we go any further, the next major thing that's taking place in the week is the news surrounding St. Vincent and the volcano. Yeah. And so with that, we do have a brother here who is a part of the relief effort. Yeah. Now, bearing in mind, Kings, we're not going to go into everything today because we are planning for next week to go to do a show properly on St. Vincent, so people can get properly updated and know Wagwan and these things. But a lot of people are asking how to get involved in the relief effort, and they want reputable people. Well, Kings and Queens, I happen to know one of the people that are central. I mean, but I don't even know him. I know him Muma, so we know him have good bra tops here and all these things. So we know that he's certified. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring him through now. So big up, my brother, Sir Influential. What you say?
Give thanks. Greetings, system.
Greetings. We actually meet him now, after calling on the week time.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't even realize it was his brother until he said his name.
Yeah. We know each other. In fact, Sir Influential, the last time I saw you, I believe it was in Soca Frenzy. But we're not going to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to talk about that. You know what I mean? We're just going to move on from them something. You know what I mean? And us, yeah. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you don't know it, Gary. But my brother, give thanks for the work that you're doing. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? In terms of organizing the community around the relief effort, and it's always beautiful to see, whenever there are tragedies such as this, that the African diaspora definitely tries to galvanize. Yeah, and I can recall this in relation to Grenada some years ago with the earthquake. I can recall it in relation to Haiti with the earthquake. There's been a few hurricanes recently, and you know what I'm saying, we generally tend to try and organize, and I know you're very central to these things. So just give our viewers an idea of what going for the relief effort, what's happening, what is needed, and where people can send their things or get them picked up.
All right, lovely. So greetings, folks. Influential here. I represent Flags Maspan, and the UK arm of the AC Store UK. Now, the current relief that I was a part of was orchestrated and created by Vinci Alliance Mass. They're based in Wickham, but they have connected all the Vincis across the UK. So as soon as last prayers erupted, it was a rapid response. It was a reach out. Who can help? Who can assist? And important to find the people necessary. And obviously, the managing director for AC Store UK, she's a good friend. Rachel, she's a Vincentian, and she was already in Vinci before any of this happened. Yeah, so as soon as it happened, she was underground helping straight away, and it was like, all right, her team are a part of my team, and it was like, we need a space where we can store stuff and collect for donations. So we contacted 365 Studios, which is what we're a part of as well. Got straight onto it and connected with everybody logistics wise, and said, come here Sunday, Monday, deliver your stuff. Tuesday it gets boxed up and gets sent to the container. Wednesday, final check over. It gone went one set of it's going Wednesday, the next set went today. So the final set went today. Now, it's important for people to note that this was a rapid response. So we got an overwhelming amount of donations. That's why we had to cut it off by a certain day. And sorry, I have to apologize to people for now if I didn't answer your call, or if I was snappy on the call, or if I was blunt in the text, because as you can imagine, I have hundreds of people coming down to the studio space. I had to even get a second room, and that room was full. People donated dog food, kids donated their presents, water, canned food, dry food, clothes, cosmetics, toiletries, you name it, it was donated, and in abundance, and we give thanks for that. So much so I was able to give people some water and say, they already have water. Just today, they've gotten water from Grenada. Yeah? They got water from Grenada today. A lot of it. Yesterday and the day before, they got help from Venezuela. So all who want to burn Venezuela sometimes, don't get it twisted. Venezuela does support the Afro-Caribbean community and the Afro-Latino community because they're partially in the Caribbean Sea. You understand? Trinidad has been supporting immensely. St. Lucia, Dominica, and Grenada have been supporting, as well as housing people as well. Because there's currently about 7,000 people on other islands, sharing accommodation. Now, the volcano in St. Vincent is in the north of the island. So the whole of the north of the island had to get evacuated via the sea, and then people coming on to the south. That's the red zone. Then just after that is the orange, and then the south is the green. Now, the major issue we have now is not just the eruption, but it's the ash. So the ash is going up, coming down, spreading south, not just in Vinci, but it's hitting into, I believe St. Lucia is the south of St. Vincent, and then up above St. Vincent to the north is Guadeloupe and Martinique, and then to the east of St. Vincent is Barbados. So the whole of the west coast of Barbados full of ash now. But obviously it's enough for them to have a rapid response on their island to just hydropower it down. So people, again, I don't want to take up too much time because I know we have a lot to talk about, but it's important to note that we will start accepting donations again soon, but we just need a day now just to recoup. Right now the meeting is going on, so I should be in the logistics meeting, but I come say let me do this now, which is fine. And it's important. We will announce on Vinci Alliance Mass's Instagram when the next collection date is and what is needed. And we're going to be more particular with the list of things, because right now they need asthma pumps, they need nebulizer, they need baby food. Obviously we've done some research and we're asking the people on the island as well who we can get in contact with what exactly is needed and where, because there's about 10 shelters that have been quickly created in the south. People are also using their house to shelter people. So literally, Shakara, if you was in the south and I was in the north, I can literally just walk down from the north now or take a bus down, come and knock on your door and say, yo, I need somewhere to stay. And people are letting people in, clothing them, feeding them. So you can imagine now it's more water than ever before needed. So the trick to it is that water will be coming in abundance. Tin food they need too, because right now there's no farming going on. They can do fishing, but only on certain parts of the island because of the ash, the water. So some of the fisheries are not in use. And also we're hoping that it stops erupting soon, the volcano, and that way the wind can just blow the ash, out into the ocean rather than elsewhere. I can't hear you.
I put myself on mute just so because I heard there was an echo. Yeah, just to say, family, that we have to stay on this one because volcanoes, they tend to have a long after effect. Yeah, I mean I remember the one in Montserrat. It took about 4 years for it to really calm down. You know what I'm saying? So we have to really pay attention. But even after the eruption, especially as with regards to this one, as I understand it, the ash is a lot. And will continue to have environmental effects for some time, So we have to pay attention. But my brother, once again, Vinci Alliance Mass is on the screen. That's where you can go. We're gonna put up some numbers as well a little bit later on, with some information. Brother Sir Influential's number is on this flyer as well. But we'll stay tuned. Yeah. You look like you want to say something. So got you.
Yes, and also just to remind people as well, when you're doing the donations, it's important to box the things and seal it and put it. When you're boxing it up, if it's too heavy for you yourself to carry, you need to put some of the stuff in a second box, please, and label it. I have to make this message out as far away as possible, because with the influx of donations and the love and the coming together, which is I love to see, it's One Caribbean, I have Vince's, Lucian's, everybody coming through one time, getting involved. I love to see that, but be mindful of how you're boxing the things, and as well, please, I beg you no. Text and call within working hours, because some of you want to the flyer 10 p.m. and you call me 11 p.m. and I and come on, please remember, so we all have a life to live too. So give thanks.
Yes, sir. Working hours.
Also, I'm reminding people want to also have to mention the monetary donation. Well, there's 3 places here that I can vote for. I don't know about anywhere else so far. The High Commission has vouched for GoFundMe. It's on their Instagram, it's on their Twitter. If you search SVG Highcom on Twitter, you'll see it. You have Vinci Alliance Mass. On their Instagram, you'll see the GoFundMe. Also, if you have Help SVG UK, if you search it on Facebook, that's Vinci Alliance Mass, that's the Facebook group. You'll see all the information there as well as the GoFundMe. And then finally, you have the AC Store UK, which is the team that I'm a part of more directly. And they have, obviously, because they're a UK company, they have a UK bank account. You can download straight to them, and they have been actively going to the supermarket and buying goods and supporting the shelters since this started, which was last week. Now, the benefit of that is, and why I'm more pushing that one, is because it's instant. The GoFundMe's, you have to wait 5 days for the for to be created, so it takes a little bit longer. Whereas with the AC Store UK, you can do bank account or you can do PayPal. It's instant, and you can see them doing it on their Instagram, on their website as well. They go on there supporting the business, which is good, because if you have a shop in St. Vincent in the South and you have supplies that people need, and I can come and buy them off you in bulk for a discounted price, I'm supporting you as the local businessman, and I'm helping the shelter. So the slogan is, from us here in the UK to them at AC Store to the people in St. Vincent, rapid time, one time. And you can see it live in the flesh right there. And we're working. This is not going to be a quick fix, because as you just said, it's a lot of ash. Like with Montserrat, it took years. They're saying this may be a year of eruptions. We're hoping not. We're praying and hoping not. Because the crate is getting bigger and bigger, but we're hoping it stops very, very soon. So people, don't feel despondent that you haven't been able to donate right now in this moment. All I'm asking for is, for one, people to just keep an eye out for the next date. When you see the details, read the flyer carefully, and also go to your relevant collection point, drop off appropriately, and then give thanks. Two, if you can't donate monetary or by buying goods, just spread awareness, please. Don't be watching nobody and saying, "Oh, you never know about it, or you never talk about it enough, or you never do this." You never
that what you said, yeah.
I really want to hear that now.
Yeah.
Big up to, and I have to big up to all the people that were pushing and so forth. So White Yard, Jamaica Valley, all the Lucian people, them, the Dominicans, DJ Tate, Alchemy Bar in Croydon, Martin J, Bacchanal Radio, Vinci Alliance Mass, Tidworth Group, the Luton, Bristol, Oxford, Reading, Birmingham. As you can imagine, is the whole of the UK.
Yes, sir.
The serious thing. So, folks, and also if you can't share, or if you want to do more as well, when we announce the collection points, people can come down and volunteer and help to pack, label, and load the vans or the vehicles here. And also, if you're a driver of a van or a large car, you will be needed, because I can imagine the next time around it's going to be just as much. I can tell you that we filled the warehouse, and then they had to get a second warehouse, and we're half full that warehouse there too. So imagine how much box that is.
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. The warehouse full, and then the second one get full by to half. Yes, there's a lot of stuff, and we give thanks for the rapid response. People keep pushing, keep staying aware, keep strong, keep positive. If you have family in Vinci, reach out to them as much as you can. Bear in mind that they're just getting back electricity because the ash was affecting the electrical wires and stuff, and causing the voltage, the blackouts. So keep them in mind. Also, if you have family in the other islands, like I said, St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, and Barbados that have been affected, keep in contact with them to find out how they're managing the ash as well. Is one Caribbean, is one Afro-Caribbean, is one Africanness, one diaspora. We're really pushing, and I'm so happy to see. People think I am Vinci. I'm not Vinci. I'm Jamaican born and bred as Jamaican. I'm born in Jamaica. My dad born in Jamaica, but it's one Caribbean, and this is the same energy I want to see for all the islands, for all the diaspora. So give thanks. Big up Sister as well. She was there on the phone. What is needed? What can I do? Where can this? What that? And obviously, it's so much. So we give thanks, and I'm really glad I was able to. Because sometimes when these things happen is years ago when you were young and you only hear about it, you read about it in school. I was in school with somebody who's from Montserrat, and their family experienced the volcano. That's why they're here now. So to not be able to respond and be a part of it and say, yeah, because it's easy to say, yeah, man, I love Vinci, I love Carnival, I love Soca, but when the people need you, you need to respond. And especially for me, I was meant to go there last year for the first time. It happened because of the whole COVID and all that. I say, you know what? I have to get in, give strength and give thanks. So people love blessings and give thanks, and just make sure you just keep yourself abreast of what's going on the socials, the WhatsApps there, AC Store UK on Instagram, Vinci Alliance Mass on Instagram and on Facebook, and keep watching and supporting Kush TV. Sister Mot will I'll probably text you with all the relevant information, and Shakara, you as well, give thanks, because we're gonna announce it soon, so people know in advance and give people time to buy the things them. And don't feel like the people that need everything. Diapers, baby wipes, baby food, baby formula, clothes. Clothes I know right now as well. If you go to your local Primark and you speak to the highest manager in the store and explain what's happening, they may be able to donate some clothes to you, or they give you a discount if you buy it in massive bulk. But the people need everything. And also, in terms of the water, what I believe the team said is we're going to recommend that people either donate to the relevant sources, and then we buy the water in pallet box and send it straight to the ship container. Because what you don't want is people coming with 4 crates of water to us. And that's too much. That makes sense when your money could have spent and you could have sent it straight to the container. That's easier. Then it's on the pallet ready to go. It's just use the forklift, put it in the ship. Bam.
All right. Give thanks, King.
Yeah,
love you.
We're gonna do something more on this, sorry, influential.
Yes,
we're gonna call you again, and
yes,
but give thanks for the work. Love to everybody that is engaged in the work. Love to Mama. You know, so we can, we have a love to Mama.
Definitely. Pops and Mommy as well. Yes,
sir. Yeah, give thanks, King. And then have a good meeting. All right.
Yes, I will do. Thank you so much. All right.
Give thanks.
Right, we'll be in touch. Right. Give thanks.
Most definitely, can family. So check that out. Just Google up on, what I'm saying, YouTube up on, Facebook up on all these things. Vinci Alliance Mass. But it was important that we got that in, family, so we can contribute to the thing. All right, Sister Mo, I'm minded to get to the guest, but I know there's a couple things. So should we do them now or should we do them later? That's the question.
Well. Actually, we could. I think we could do that one later. One of them we could do later because we. But I'll start with the proverb. I think we could introduce our guests now.
Yes.
And I was doing a bit of research on the guests prior to. I didn't know much about him, to be fair, and I'm glad. I'm so glad. I love the education, and I didn't know much. I'd seen his face, but not actually knew much about him. So. And courage is a thing. When I think about the work that he's doing, I hear courage. So the African proverb tonight is a warrior fights with courage, not with anger.
A warrior fights with courage and not with anger. Very, very apt, kings and queens, for our guest tonight, who is a criminologist, an urban youth specialist, PhD researcher, and founder and director of SOLVE, the Center for Youth Violence and Conflict. He is acknowledged as one of the UK's leading thinkers, doers in responding to gangs and serious youth violence. He is a JNC qualified youth worker with over 16 years of experience as an outreach worker, transformational speaker, gang exit strategist, advisor, mediator, mentor, and filmmaker. Kings and queens, we introduce you to the one and only brother CRAIG Pinkney. Greetings, brother CRAIG.
Greetings, family. I've just been listening to the background thinking, why? Some serious gems is like a dropping then. And Sister Moore, I love the proverb, a warrior fights with courage, not anger. But blessings, man, and it's an honor to kind of share the space with you. Again, it's been a while since we've seen each other. Shaka, it's been a while. It's almost like every time we see each other, it's always at the Legacy Center or at some other event that we have in the community. We need to break bread one of the days, man, and link up properly.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for joining us, brother. Thank you for joining us abundantly. Do you know what I'm saying? One of the things that we pride ourselves on at Got Kush TV is just shedding some light, on the people that in our community that are doing certain works. Because enough times people are asking questions about the works that are being done, or sometimes people are complaining and they're even suggesting that the work is not being done. And especially in relation to black men, you know what I'm saying, and especially in relation to black men taking responsibility for black boys. And so we give thanks for you and the work that you're doing, and it's even more important today, after we're speaking about DMX and his legacy and the example and the lessons that we can learn from a life such as that. And I think that there are some people that are really applying those lessons in our community, and I think you're one of them. And so we're giving thanks for you. And I don't know. So, you know what I mean? I think we should really begin. I gave, the little formal, you know what I'm saying, curriculum vitae, you know what I'm saying? Right? But in real terms, what does CRAIG Pinkney do?
I wear a number of hats depending on what day of the week it is. Kind of on a normal day-to-day, I'm normally delivering training for professionals within education, within criminal justice, as well as the community. generally around building their skills and their competency to be able to respond to the issues that are affecting our communities. Aside to that, I'm also a consultant for a number of entities up and down the country. So the Crown Prosecution Service, as well as the National Youth Agency, a number of violent reduction units, and currently supporting Norfolk County Council's children's services.
Right.
That's what a day, a week looks like in Craig. And then also, you got to come home and you got to do the family thing as well. So that is another title that I like to be proud of and hold as well. And I think it's funny because the last speaker said the same thing about, people calling at appropriate times. And I had them situations where people may call me at like 12, 1, 2 in the morning. But it's also got to respond to the situations that take place. It was only just 48 hours ago one of our brothers in our community got killed in a shooting, and a number of incidents where our young people have been stabbed and shot in our local community. And I remember speaking to my colleague literally on the way to come here to have this conversation with you. And she said, in all of her years of working, she's never known a time when the frequency of violence is so high. But then that kind of links to some of the stuff that I've been talking about over the last 13 months. I said that COVID-19 and the impact of COVID-19, especially as we're talking about mental health and the impact of mental health on our children and young people, we're going to start to see the ripple effects of that. And 4 days into the restrictions being lessened, and now we're starting to see those behaviors behave in the communities.
Yes, sir. Do you know what? We'll come back to that important question. Yeah, just a brief history though, because obviously I think the people them can tell that our brother is from the north. You know what I'm saying? Up Nessa, Birmingham. You know what I'm saying? In Birmingham. So, but in the UK, right? Birmingham has quite a strong history, yeah, in relation to the Black community, but also in relation to uprisings, also in relation to quote unquote gang violence. Yeah, it's one like London, Handsworth, Moss Side. Yeah, these like in the 90s, these were the the main areas where it comes to Black people and this thing. And recently, over the weekend, from the 10th to the 12th, was the anniversary of the Brixton uprising. Yeah. In 1981, 40th anniversary, and we know that uprising, kind of sparked uprisings all over the country, including Birmingham. So, in relation to that, now, if you can, just give a brief context for the people them in terms of the history of Brixton, so not Brixton, Birmingham, like the uprisings and the development or the mushrooming of so-called gang violence among our youth. Well, we were the youth them back in the day, but now the youth them are the youth them. So yeah, give a brief context.
I think the context is interesting. It's a long story, and this is part of the reason why I embarked on my PhD to kind of attempt to answer this particular question. Right. So within my PhD, I'm talking about gang violence within Birmingham, West Midlands specifically, and I've ultimately picked up from many would be aware of Professor Carl Chin's work. He was the individual that made us aware of the Peaky Blinders. And this was the individual that kind of spoke about gangs in early Birmingham. And it almost kind of ended the conversation. And I guess what I'm doing in my PhD is kind of continuing the conversation and talking about all of those communities that migrated, all of those different communities that came, going past the Windrush era and up until this point, and talking about what some of the experiences of individuals have been when they came to this particular country. So we know that many of our communities came to this country with the hope to build a better life, also to build this the country for it to be great as it is. But whilst our communities got here, they were faced with racism and having to fight against some of those systemic issues that our grandparents oftentimes spoke about. And then the next generation preceding that, which is my parents' generation, also faced a lot of those challenges. And whilst they faced a lot of those challenges, fighting skinheads, fighting neo-Nazis, and a lot of far-right extremist groups within communities, what happened was that those particular groups formulated as almost like kind of collectives to protect each other and protect the women and protect their communities. And as you know, when we talk about kind of Malcolm X used to talk about the devil and the devil's games, and we know that alcohol and we know that drugs and we know that firearms somehow entering to our community. And then those same groups that were a part of the uprisings, those same groups that came from families that were around supporting and ensuring that those communities were safe, when those particular things came into the community, we then started to see individuals within those communities utilize those vices either towards each other or with each other. And that's the same story. We can look at a wider context and just look across the Western Hemisphere. We can go places like Los Angeles, and we can talk about what happened post 1986 when crack cocaine was brought in by the American government and the impact that had on the Black Panther Party. And we can look at places like Chicago and when drugs and firearms came into the society, and we know the impact that had on other movements that were ultimately there. And then when we see the gangs of today, it gives us a real interesting opportunity to reflect. And I know you're a man, Shaka, that likes films, and that's why it's interesting that I always get people to go back and revisit films like Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, because what John Singleton was doing, he was teaching us from a young age about how these vices come into our community and the adverse impact it has on thus following after that. And it's crazy because when we were all young, we were all more interested in the violence. We were interested in the carjackings. We were interested in all of those things. But the story of Lawrence Fishburne, that's how he was teaching us. And when you then watch things like on Netflix, and I'm coming to the point now because it's all connected.
Go ahead, bro.
When you go onto things like Netflix and you watch things like Narcos, and you look at things like El Chapo, what that does is that tells the story of how drugs came into the Western Hemisphere via the American government. And then when you watch films like Snowfall, Boys in the Hood, and a lot of these contemporary crime dramas, what that does is tell the story of our experience of when the drugs came to the ground and the dismantlement of Black activism, the radical movements that we had that were supporting our communities got dismantled through those particular strategies that were created by our local governments. So then when we fast forward and then we look at our communities now, and then we look at those rebellious communities from Handsworth, from Brixton to Leeds, Chapeltown to Sheffield, we ask the question now, why are those youths out and about and got that rebellious spirit and seem like they just don't care? Because their parents and their grandparents were individuals that came to our country, came to this community, and were those that were rebellious and those that were prepared to engage in all forms of warfare. When I talk about warfare, I'm talking about psychological warfare. I'm talking about the emotional warfare and being able to protect our babies in our community. And I think that's what's important when we have those conversations. So my story is also linked into that, Shaka, because my grandparents, for I don't know if you know this, but my grandparents, Mavis and Rudolph Pinkney, they started an organization here in Birmingham in the late 60s and 70s known as the Nightingale Project.
Yes, sir.
So you can't talk about man like Beanie Brown and the 104 Pan-Africanist Saturday School Movement without talking about my grandparents. You can't talk about the Muhammad Ali Center in Birmingham without talking about my grandparents. So a lot of the activists that I see growing up in Saturday School, in the Marcus Garvey Center, a lot of those individuals were around my grandparents that were pioneers in the late 60s and 70s that were ensuring that our communities were safe and our children had a knowledge of self to be able to move forward within that. So when I come into the mix now, I'm just an individual that's part of my DNA. I'm only doing exactly what my grandparents had done and moving forward with that.
Yes, sir. Giving that extensive answer, my brother. And it's very important. The reason why I have to ask that is because when it comes to the whole the whole issue of our communities, especially in relation to the violence, people often don't put it in the context. And I feel like it's actually impossible to really address the issues as a community if we're not really addressing that broader context. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's very important that history that you've given. I've had to teach that in different ways many times, and it's like it amazes me the extent to which people are unaware. of the linkages between those uprisings. And now when I know, because I'm coming from that family, so when it comes to places like Brixton and Broadwater Farm, my parents were involved in the thing, right? You know what I'm saying? So we have an understanding of that history. But I feel like a lot of the reason why we see what we see today is because a lot of the children of that generation are actually disconnected from that history. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so the context of their areas and their ends, is not known to them. We can't understand it fully in that respect. I'm going to hand over to Sister Mort to see if she wants to take the conversation forward, or is she just enjoying the vibe?
Yeah, don't hold me.
Just want to relax and sip some tea, right?
Come through.
So I did some research, and I did a little bit of research. I did a little bit of digging in terms of your checked out some YouTubes and your TED Talk. Congratulations on that. And you were talking about the stories you tell and the way you tell them. It's almost like you're like the fourth emergency service. Do you see what I mean? The way people have to contact you in that way, right? And you talked about your grandmother, Mavis, in one of your talks and stuff. And I wonder also, because we sometimes, we're in a generation. My eldest is 21, so just get context. I'm a mother to 3 sons, and I've got 2 smaller ones in primary age, but I'm a home educator now. And I actually don't have any inclination to have my 11-year-old going into secondary school, because as far as I'm concerned, it's a hostile environment. Yes. And it's just not conducive for who he is, right? But our young people often, it's really so important about bridging that gap. And I'm so, and I wondered how you were able to bridge that gap. I know you spoke about your time in, basketball, and how, you'd had an injury, and that changed your trajectory then, if you like, then. But I also look at, young people, this is kind of, we're cool. Look, you're cool. I'm cool. Shaka's cool. Yeah, we're cool. For who we are, we're cool, right? But young people, in their own right, will not see cool. They see what they want to see, or if you're not, in the attention economy that they're in, or the way that they're doing their attention economy. And I wondered how you were able to bridge that gap with your grandmother, how that was for you in terms of engaging in that, because that was that always part of your
I would say no. I said as I got older, as I start to get more mature. So I don't know if Beanie Brown and family's watching this, but I remember I'd done something really naughty at Saturday school one time, and we stole £2 out the office. We got into some serious trouble for that. I mean, a piece of liquor that we got from doing that. But after that particular moment, I found myself becoming quite disheartened with not necessarily the teachings, but what I was observing. And this is going to be important, because I am going to answer the question a little bit after about why I believe things are missing. And one of the things that I observed of being around a lot of these spaces is, whilst that the knowledge was at a 10, the individuals that used to come from different parts of the world to come and give us inspiration and that kind of extra level of kind of intellect that we didn't get in the mainstream education system. And I agree with you, as Malcolm X said, that, the school system is almost like the killing fields. And as I kind of started to go into my teens, why I became so disheartened is because I felt like the information that I was given wasn't producing anything different in terms of my reality. And what I mean by that is, whilst I'm on the weekend learning about Marcus Messiah Garvey, or I'm learning about someone from ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, man are trying to rob me on the corner of the block. I need to make money. So the information that I was receiving was almost opposite to what my worldview was and what my reality was. So a lot of us that came up in those particular spaces, I want to use the word loosely, but we dropped out on the basis that we didn't feel that anything that we were given that was helping us survive in the moment. So then one of the things that kind of brought me back is that I've always been an inquisitive youth. I've always been someone that wants to learn. And despite the fact that I've had challenges in the education system, I've always been an individual that's always wanted to study about self. I've always wanted to travel. I've traveled to so many different countries and been on the motherland in different places to just know more about who we are and where we potentially come from. And one of the things that I kind of started to realize is when I started to have better conversations with both my parents, and I started to learn about the work that grandma and granddad did in the community, made me understand a little bit deeper about the kind of, what I would say, what is required within the community when you have a community that give up. They, like Shaka said in the beginning, people say that you're not doing the right thing. Everyone's a critique behind their laptop and behind the keyboard. And how do you continue that momentum in the community when the system is just designed to just trap us at every single angle? And that's part of the reason why when I kind of talk about my work, one of the things that I advocate is that it's not just about developing that knowledge of self, but we also have to show and prove. And that's what was missing, that I realized that despite all of our elders had the knowledge and intellect and were able to kind of guide us into finding ourselves, one thing that I believe that they lacked was showing us how to survive in Great Britain, how to survive in these lands, knowing that the system is set up to trap us in those particular things. So I don't recall having conversations about financial literacy. I don't remember having conversations about investing, saving. It's only now that I've got older that people are now telling me about the importance of partner. I used to hear my nan say it. I used to hear my grandma talk about it, but we never really understood the importance of it. It was just something that we did, once a month, throwing a £5-10. And at the end of it, we remember the kind of Christmas time, we got a little money and we just were excited, but the teaching of its importance wasn't ultimately there. So when I talk about then young people now and engaging with young people, one of the things I think about is with all of that information, beautiful knowledge and wisdom that our parents, our grandparents bestowed upon us, what's missing? And what's missing is that we're not talking about how children are able to survive. So it's all good that you bring young people to the center and you put them in a circle and you tell them about ancient Egypt and you tell them about all of the greats that came before us, male and female. But if a youth wants to bust my head across the road, tell me how to survive against that. And that's the point that I believe that a lot of our conscious community just don't seem to get. And it's almost kind of like, in my opinion, and this is just my view, it's almost quite religious sometimes, that we believe that just go at church and it's going to solve your problem. Just come at church and wear a suit and everything going to be all right. But people still want to rob me. People still want to attack me. People still want to come for me outside the school. I'm on the school bus and I'm petrified thinking someone's going to do something. So until we start to think about realistic and collective ways that not only we give them information and knowledge of self, but information that's going to help them protect themselves and build resilience, we're not going to lose them to the man them on the road. We're not going to lose them to the communities and individuals that are trying to poison our community and especially poison our children.
Absolutely. And I think, sorry, I just following on from that, because with my sons, my younger two, so I say this to all parents. So my background is in childbirth, and a lot of people ask me, now that I'm home educating, they ask me a lot of questions. But I used to be a parent governor, so I used to be engaged in the schools a lot anyway, right? And I often say to parents, I don't understand how, I don't understand how other parents, especially with sons, but I say it to all parents. I say to them, if you send your child to secondary school, send them in with a martial art. Don't go in there. Don't let your child go in like you're in the lion's den. Yeah, you've got older children that they've never come across before. Yeah, see them in their little, when they've got their first uniform, you can't even see their hand. You know what I mean? So imagine these tiny little people going into an environment and they're engaging with older boys. Yeah, for the first time, a lot of them. They're not in their peer group, they're not at home, they're not cousins maybe. And it just doesn't make sense to not arm your children. I mean, all my children have done martial arts or one kind of variable since they were 5. Yeah. Even if they never use it, they've got it. You understand what I'm saying? And I think you know, you said something in one of your videos. You said, you know, talked about, you know, your background and education and things like that. And if I look at Dr. Amos Wilson's work, he always talks about Dr. Joanna Kunjufu's work, if you know his work, Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. He always talks about, you know, the importance of young, you know, especially boys, but girls can get, I believe the education system is designed, in fact, we know that, you know, there's statistics around that. It's designed for females to succeed just by the learning style of it. It's only now they're bringing in blended learning. But for boys who are very kinesthetic, very visual, it's a problem. It's a problem. And it makes no sense not arming your children with that kind of that awareness as well, knowing, you know, going into school and telling your, you know, if I wasn't the parent I was, I mean, my son was in and out of school, my eldest one, for a little while. You know, there was like, we've got to manage move, because he was bright. He was a system buster who go into the school. Their late system was flawed, and he knew it. So he weren't brain. He got caught out and etc. etc. But in all fairness, you couldn't fault him because your system was already flawed. You couldn't tell if he was at a detention or not. So he wasn't there. You understand what I'm saying? So you set the children up on some level to fail. You set them up in a way where, I think, when I think about Dr. Joanna Kunjufu's work, he talks about the importance of, academics is not important to young people. And so the way to almost mask their academics is to give them either a sport, a martial art, something that, you know, it could be they dance. There's something that you have to give them or pour into them for their popularity. So that they can cover their own academics. My son, with him, it was, he got into debates. You know, he's in doing a degree in social policy right now. So got into debating. But I had to cover him. He wasn't Mr. Sports. So I had to cover him with his martial arts. So you have to cover them. You know, like when they say cover them. You have to cover them in something. You can't leave them like that. And I worry about how many children, especially now, because we're talking about the mental health of young people, especially now, how vulnerable the children really are right now. You understand what I'm saying? So I just wonder, you know, what your thoughts are around what Joanna Kunjufu says about covering children with something else.
And spot on. And I think that's why I always advocate for, we need to bring back the Saturday school movement, but with adaptations that we need to add and bring new things in. And like some of those things that are missing, in my opinion, like the martial arts, you know, like high impact sports, especially when you're engaging with young boys that are hyper masculine, which you just beautifully expressed. MMA, you know, American football, rugby, not just cricket and football, but trying to introduce them into those kind of high impact sports that give them that same of thrill and that energy that their adrenaline buzzes off, especially when they may be engaging in other behaviors and activities. So ultimately there needs to be a replacement. So whatever you provide for the young people, it has to be at the same level of excitement. So that's why when I talk to a lot of my young boys that are on road, and I always say with no judgment, let's say if you got £5 grand in your pocket, then why don't you utilize that £5 in order to travel, see the world? And they always look like, huh? I'm saying the money you lot are spending going in clubs every weekend and doing all of this, you'll be able to go Africa, you could go Gambia, you can go Morocco, you could go all these different places, and I can show you how I did it. Ask me how, is what I normally say to them. They say, how? Jump on my phone real quick and let me show you on what apps that I found the cheapest rate on. So the money that you just spent in the club last night, and you probably spent £700, you probably could get an all-inclusive situation in Gambia, and ask me what hotel to go to, and I'll send you to the right nice place in order for you to have a good time. So it's kind of getting those young people to recognize that also the money that they're using is actually impacted on the way that they can ultimately move forward. And if they use that money that they have in the right way, not only are they traveling and seeing the world, but are also going to have an opportunity to discover their roots, their knowledge of self. And I'm not saying that that's the one location that they can go. There's many locations that they can ultimately go. And I remember speaking to one of the youths about a year or so ago, and he was like, Craig, you know what? I didn't understand why you didn't tell me this earlier. And that's the point that I keep going back to. What we keep doing as a community, and this is my other critique, is that all we're doing is talking at young people. We want things to change. We want the system to change, but we're not showing how. And that's why I think the last time I seen Shaka was probably at the Legacy Center in Birmingham. And, you know, King Cypher wrote a book called The Money Making Manual. And that's what I teach to young people. How do you utilize your money for the right thing? And more importantly, with all of the skills that you have, how can you make that transparent into something positive? Because if you can flip half a brick selling cocaine or selling heroin, that means you can be a banker, you can be an accountant, you can own your own business. But ask me how. And that's what I always say, ask me how. And I can show you, and if I can't show you, I make sure I network with individuals that can. And I think that is where we need to move forward, that just thinking getting them in the room and dressing them in kente cloth and having a few drums around and a few sisters and a few brothers are talking in a very humble way is one level, good. But what are we doing to prepare them to be able to respond to those individuals that want to kick them out of school, those individuals outside of the school that don't have the same upbringing as they do, they don't come from the same backgrounds where they have manners and respect? What do we do when there's individuals that are out there that want to kill them by the state, want to stop and search them and strangle them? Because as you know, the statistics are out there. Exclusion rates, stop and search, deaths in police custody, higher sentencing, harsher sentencing for individuals, people sectioned under the Mental Health Act, and not only sectioned, but also given harsher drugs, and all of our people are on acute wards to do with mental health. So we know that the system is designed to destroy our males and also destroy our females, in the sense that women get through the system, but then they have a situation where there's no men. And these are
it's indirect. All indirect, yeah.
And it's all a part of our destruction. And the only way that we're going to get out of this destruction is if we understand, as Dr. Francis Cresswell, one of my favorite teachers that I never got to meet, how do you understand the system, and then how do you play the game so we survive?
Yes, family. We're speaking to Brother Craig Pinkney. Yeah, a lot, bro. Yeah, like you're opening some conversations. Yeah, that, like, you know what I mean? You know, like, man, for like, yeah, we have to arrange a 4-hour session to delve into some of these conversations that you're opening up right now. You know what I mean? Still, but family, yeah, Craig Pinkney is the brother that we're speaking to at the moment. If you don't know, get to know, doing fantastic and beautiful, powerful work in our community. I'm going to put up his website shortly, Kings and Queens. But you know, these are brothers and sisters who we need to know about. Yeah, they're on the job. And I will say this, Brother Craig, in terms of the critique, because many of us who were raised in the movement, so to speak, and around the movement and in the Black Saturday schools, I think a lot of us have had that critique, yeah, that you've outlined. I think an overwhelming minority of us have taken that critique and tried to build upon, you know, the work that our elders did, if that makes sense. In terms of whatever they did do correct, yeah, I think, you know, very few of us have made that critique and said, you know what, all right, let me do what my elders were unable to do, or for whatever reason. And I think you're one of those people that have set that example at the very least. And I think as a generation, you know, we do need to hold ourselves to account for, you know what I'm saying, in that kind of way as well, to say, well, boy, like, really, all right, you know, because the reason why I'm saying that is this. I feel like for a lot of our elder generation, the idea that the brothers and sisters around you could be your enemy was weird. It took them a long time to really, you know, calculate that, because they understood that they had to, you know, bond together to protect each other. So when it gets to a situation whereby their children are dangerous to each other, I just think it was shell shock, culture shock, and it took a while.
Overwhelming.
For that reality, a proper understanding of that new reality to really kick in. And obviously, man like me and you understand it a little better because we kind of come up in it, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? There's an instinct there that maybe our parents didn't have. And in that respect, yeah, we have a question in the chat. that says, how do we make sure our Saturday schools hear this info? I'm agreeing with you. I've worked in Saturday schools basically my entire adult life. And I think that we need to want a revival of the Saturday school movement, but an evolution of it into more full-time education, community education. But just in terms of this question right here, how do we make sure our Saturday schools hear this info?
As I would say to my students in class, my Google works like your Google, and my YouTube works like your YouTube. When you start digging around for a couple of minutes, you'll find there are people that are doing this amazing work around the country, within our city. And like how you're on this platform right now, I'm available. We are available. And if I can't answer one specific question, we know somebody that can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Give thanks for that. Yeah, man. And one of the things, like, let me not say too much here, but one of the things that I know more people are doing is doing teacher training, and in terms of more specifically the African-centered community, doing African-centered teacher training, and that kind of thing. And I'm an advocate for these things as well, because the brothers, as far as I'm concerned, if you're educating Black children, you need to receive training from people like Brother Craig Pinkney, people like Twilight Bay. Do you know what I'm saying? People that are in the community doing a certain kind of work, even if that's not your main field. You need to have those skills, among you know what I'm saying. So I truly appreciate that. Big it up to Blissful Blue saying she will copy and paste this live everywhere I am. So we give thanks for that appreciation right there. Family, what I'm gonna do now is share the link here. If you want to come through and speak to Brother Craig, you know what I'm saying, just say big up Brother Craig. You know what I'm saying? Or ask a question or even challenge, man, respectfully. Feel free to do so right about now. Don't come through in half an hour's time when we're soon going to wrap up the show and say, yo, me want to talk to Craig. You know what I'm saying? Like, come through now, early bird catch the worm, as them say. Right? So I'm going to share the link now. So you can come through and speak to Brother Craig. He's dealing with some very, very serious issues. And you touched on something earlier, Brother Craig, in terms of the mental health in relation to this whole COVID. First of all, just in terms of the work that you're doing, give our community an insight into what you have seen as the impact on the mental health of our young people in relation to COVID.
Well, over the last 13 months, one of the predictions that we made was, if we don't have services to engage children and young people, there's generally 7 things that we're going to start seeing. Number 1, the increased issues of mental health. Young people being depressed, young people feeling anxious. They've never been in this situation before. We haven't informed them how. We haven't demonstrated how they can cope. But ultimately, we've just put them in this type of situation that's expecting them to kind of engage in all of the kind of debates and all of the kind of restrictions that's put out. Another issue is around issues inside of households as it relates to issues like domestic violence, child abuse of all forms. Because you've also got to bear in mind is that one of the things that's quite interesting is in the pandemic, everybody's had to almost kind of live on top of each other. So there's a lot of statistics around domestic violence in households where there wasn't violence before, which I think links to the point around mental health. So everybody's stressed out. I mean, even in my house right now, everybody has to go upstairs and shut up. And anybody make a noise, you're messing with my money, you're messing with what's going on. But then imagine if you're in a household where your children have to go to school and your house ain't that big, and everybody's trying to fight for the kitchen space, the living room space, and then you've got issues around people that may not have access to jump online or even have a laptop. So what you're finding is that there's a lot of household issues taking place. And because children and young people don't have access to services to be able to kind of report what may be going on for them, all of those things are taking place in the household. And then that links to my third point. So those children and young people, those are the ones you may see out and about in the street. And those that are ignorant may look at those young people like, these youths just don't want to conform. These youths just don't want to hear, but not realizing or recognizing what might be going in the household. And then the third point I was going to make is the increase of violence. So what then happens then is we know that there's communities and there's issues around gang membership and young people repping postcodes. And one of the things we've started to see in terms of a new trend of violence is young people looking for their ops or their enemies, and they're seeing a youth outside the chicken shop with a hood on his head and a night tracksuit, and making the assumption that he's one of the individuals involved, and the kid that's leaving the household because of domestic violence and abuse has now become a victim of some sort of knife or gun related incident in the community. And then there's another issue around young people being vulnerable to issues around criminal exploitation, county lines. So we know that's a major issue in our community where young people are being used in order to sell drugs. But why is that important? Because you have to also understand the impact of the drug trade. So whilst import and export have been restricted, and I don't know if you've been reading the news over the last 12 months, but the National Crime Agency seem to be cleaning up. There was 2 tons that was found in Stockport or somewhere else, and all of the main docks where drugs may be coming in or firearms may be coming into the country, there is an extra magnifying glass now because of COVID and everybody's trying to protect the virus. But what does that mean in terms of organized criminality? So that means that if drugs are being seized by crime agencies, that means that the price of cocaine and heroin is going to increase. And those individuals that are invested in selling drugs are going to need to either up their prices or they're going to need more workers. So those same young people that are out and about, not in education, not in school, trying to stay at a house, trying to stay out of mum and dad's way because I don't want to irritate them or contribute to the issues inside of the household. And then we've got all of our people in the community telling young people what to do, but not showing them how to do things. Then that individual on the corner saying, listen, I know a way you can make some serious money, Just jump on a train and just go up to Cardiff. Just jump on a train and just end up in Worcestershire. Jump on a train and go up to Norfolk. Sit in one yard and make a little bit of money. I'll give you £300 a week to do so. And those used to thinking £300 a week. It's light work, even though the individual's making £10,000 every couple of days or whatever. They're happy with the £300, but not realizing that when they find themselves in those situations, they're having to money manage and run a business inside a household, and they've never been in that situation before. And then you've got the situation that if there's a drug raid, if a youth robs them or another gang's in that community and robs them, then these children end up in debt. Then the spiral effect of what then happens after that is so hard to them to come back. So one of the things that we've noticed in COVID-19 is that the impact on our children and young people has exacerbated, but it's not new. Because I would say 10 years prior to COVID-19, we've been having this conversation about poverty, deprivation, trauma, adverse childhood experiences, the impact of high unemployment, the impact of poor resources, poor housing conditions, the impact of systemic racism in communities, racial profiling, the lack of community relations with leadership, policing, so on and so forth. And whilst all of those systemic factors exist within society, all COVID-19 has exacerbated those issues. So coming out of COVID-19 now, we are going to start to see a series of behaviors that may seem extreme, but this is something that we've predicted before, just like in 2010 and 11, when the Conservative government said they were going to do all of these cuts and we entered into the recession, and we as youth workers were saying, listen, don't shut the youth centers, don't close the youth centers. We're going to see spikes in violence. We're going to see more issues around exploitation. 10 years later, we're all now saying, why are we having an issue of knife crime? Why are our kids being exploited? And it's almost like we don't know and we didn't see it coming. So what will happen now is in about 12 months' time, we'll have a conversation again about why are our children running around stabbing each other with zombie knives more frequently than before? Why do young people just seem to be shooting people indiscriminately in our community? And I'm going to say, remember the conversation we had on Go Kush TV, where we were talking about the impact of COVID-19 on our young people. What does that mean for those that are watching? What does that mean for those that are invested in supporting communities? It means that we need to adapt our way of engaging our children and young people, and it needs to be up to the time. We're in a technological, mediatized way of how young people communicate. So if we're thinking that just sitting in a little box room with a few drums in the background and everybody looks nice with a few herbs and a few things are going in the building, if you think that's going to engage the young person of today in 2021 and beyond, we need to wake up. And that for me is something that if we are invested in change, we need to keep our foundation. So I'm not saying that we need to remove our values and our beliefs and the way in which we do things, But there is nothing wrong with adapting. There's nothing wrong with changing things to meet the needs of different people. Because as the sister just mentioned, everybody has different learning styles. Everybody has different ways that we can engage. So you sitting in front of the classroom or in that box room is great for some people, but it's not great for all. And until we have that kind of multi-way of engaging with our children and young people and the parents in the community, because they need engaging too, we're going to find ourselves having the same conversation over and over again.
I hear that.
Thank you
And I
very
think,
much.
you know, I
Sorry,
appreciate
sorry,
Go ahead.
we just got somebody who wants to come and interact with
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. All right. 1 second. I think I know who it is. All right, we've got two people. So I'm gonna deal with Sankofa Rising first and foremost. Microphone check. Sankofa Rising.
Sorry, greetings.
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 Who's Sankofa Rising? I mean, I know them people. Yeah, all them people. Yeah.
I don't know you for. Greetings, Sister Mux. How are you, blessed?
Rise up. Inside joke here. This is my queen, by the way, kings and queens. Yeah. So this.
Look at you.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead.
Wife, the wife is on top. Come on, wife.
I have to behave now, innit? I have to behave now. So.
That's right.
You already done misbehave about Circle Frenzy, but we will talk about it later. But yeah, rise up, the brother Craig. Yes, I've been following you for some time, and we just give thanks for all of your powerful works and everything. I want to respectfully, I don't even want to say respectfully challenge you, but my thing is more about how we change the conversation, especially in terms of generations. The fact that you are still, to me, a product of what our elders put in, if that makes sense, and you've gone on and you've done the work. And like you're saying, I just caught you the last bit of what you said in terms of you're not telling us to get rid of our values and the foundation, but the message is lost with our young people if we say, when we continuously say the elders didn't do anything, and or we don't put certain things in context, and how can I put it, give a chronological order of how things have progressed or not progressed and what kind of fights that we've had. But I think it's just how things are put is what I'm challenging, if that makes sense. So
I think you're agreeing.
Like Shakira said, that the elders might not have been equipped for what was coming in terms of seeing that their children will become an enemy, so to speak, and they understood that the system was after the minds of our people, hence the education, the Saturday schools, and taking that into our own hands, but not really fully overstanding and seeing the wave. But my point is that we understand that each generation comes to do this work, and you are the fruit. Shakira is the fruit, and showing that when you put that in, this is what comes back. And I think what I'm asking is, how do we change the conversation to say, okay, this is the foundation, and this is why the foundation is important, because you get to understand A, B, or C. But we have to build on consistently, because that's what we're teaching our young people to do with their children, and so forth and so forth. Like that is our culture, that is our tradition. But I'm saying that in these times, it's about how we change that conversation, because there's so much of this elders haven't done anything conversation, if that makes sense. So then it becomes the gap, and the respect level is just changing, especially with our elders. So you are elders to young people, but the elders above you, for the young people that you work with, they might not give them absolutely no ratings. Do you understand what I'm saying? And how they treat their grandparents and all them type of thing there, because they're not understanding their value and what they have sacrificed, and some level their limitations, which we have even come across within our generation. So, and then the conversation for our generation, for who are not picking up that baton and carrying on the work, who have benefited from the Saturday schools and those sacrifices, but then have gone to say, oh well, it didn't serve me because I didn't get that job. I don't know what the psychology is why people take what they think is an easy road. but how we challenge our generation to know, to say that it's our time to do the work, because when the elders was doing that work, they were our age, they were younger than us.
Yeah, so
do you get what I'm saying? So like I said, I rise you up all the time, but it's just the nature, it's just that type of conversation. I'm very passionate about my elders.
I think we're having the same conversation, sis. I'm not sure what part of the conversation that you jumped in at, but I started off by praising my grandparents and praising the Saturday school movement and saying that I was a child out of that. And then what I went on to say when the sister asked the question, I said what made me disheartened, and the disheartened of leaving those kind of ranks at the time was the fact that I wasn't taught how to survive. That's the only critique I provided. I wasn't taught how to survive. So with the work that I do is standing on the shoulders of my grandparents and the likes of Beanie Brown and those that were part of the Muhammad Ali Center, those that were from the Marcus Garvey Center, Newtown Community Project, Handsworth Community Project, Oakland's Youth Center, and Play Center. By standing on their shoulders, the thing that I address our young people by changing the narrative is asking the most simple question in social sciences: what do you want? And when I'm engaging with my young people, they're just telling me two basic things. Now, there may be more, but I only talk to a certain set of young people, and they say they want either money or they want to survive. So all of my interventions with young people is not just about raising awareness of how to stay safe, which is around that survival and building their resilience, but also finding ways on how they can build themselves up legitimately. And that's why then I utilize the example of Brother King Cypher from Birmingham, where he wrote a book called The Money Making Manual for the Hip Hop Generation, which is us. So those are the conversations that I have with the man them on the block. How can we get you into this conversation about legitimate money? Because you're all talented, you're all gifted. So I don't have those conversations from the angle of disrespecting those that came before, because who am I to critique my grandparents when they were the ones that created the foundation in order for me to walk?
Definitely. Well, give thanks for that clarification. But yeah, just sometimes when I hear it a little bit, I'm just like, oh dear. But yeah, we give thanks for that clarification. And yeah, just maintain and rise up yourselves, rise up Got Kush TV. And I just hope that, again, this echoes more so for our generation. Because, it's not directly our elders' children out there, it's their grandchildren. So it's our children. So we have to definitely pick up that baton of work and get on with it. So yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks
for that, Sanko, for rising. You don't know that's what I'm there with our kings and queens. That's what I'm there with us still. You know what I mean? All right, family. Njoku, I'm gonna bring you through now. Njoku, so prepare yourself. Right, Njoku, health and wellness. Are you there, my sister, my brother?
You need to take yourself off mute.
Yeah, I know. You're on mute if you're trying to speak and we can't hear you because you're on mute. If you are indeed at the computer right now. Family, you can do the same as Njoku Health and Wellness Group and Sankofa Rising by clicking the link in the description, to join the conversation as Brother Craig. All right, it looks like we have it, Njoku.
Yeah, apologies, I've got a tab, but peace and blessings, everybody, to on the panel.
Peace and blessings, my brother.
Big up Shacks, and system. I've been intermittently visiting this channel just to hear the conversation, and from what I've been hearing, it's been very positive and very informative. So big up for that. And Craig, my brother, you brought some very, very relevant points that are quite thorough with the analysis. So it's very good, because sometimes you can see what's happening, but to be able to thoroughly put your finger down on solutions is as I think is the most important step. And you've done that throughout all of the sort of particular problems or issues that are in the community for children, and especially the Black community. And as so big up everybody for that. And so I'm speaking from a subjective point of view here as a young man who had certain issues in the school system, and I kind of faced the pipeline to not necessarily a complete smooth sailing sort of academic period, right? So I kind of got caught up in a system in that sense. So I'm trying to speak from that point of view. And when it comes to having a child's mindset or a young adult coming up, like you pointed out, two things: they want to survive and money. And I feel like that currency needs to be now from what I'm thinking, it needs to be a diverted or directed towards all the available opportunities now, especially through media. And as a kid coming up, all I had was sort of these playing football maybe down the end of the road, and these, we got all of these sort of incentives through the government. But I feel like for me as a kid, that everything cost so much. All of these sort of I don't even know what they were, EMA schemes, it was just like it wasn't attractive enough for me. So that's how I can understand how the kids now, they're looking at the streets and making money as cool, and actually I'm going to make money at the same time, and I'm going to meet a social network. But obviously now we understand that the social network in that world isn't so certain, and it's dangerous, and all the rest of the factors that come with it. So I feel like talking about all of the problems that affect the community is very good, and the way I think this channel is perfect for that type of thing to happen, and the solutions is something that I've been looking at quite thoroughly as well. And I worked with Pinnacle People, which was a recruitment agency that actually dealt with putting young kids into school. So I was actually looking for jobs around London, and then presented it to kids when they came to look for work and stuff via the company I was working with. So I feel like now the opportunities with, because what I'm thinking is the attention, and it's boredom a lot of the time for the kids. So they need money. They definitely need money. So I'm just gonna the point. I think the main thing is the solutions now just need to be marketed and more advertised a little bit easier for the kids, and for people who are in situations where they might find themselves having to go down the path we all know is never really good, and there's no support, there's no pension with all that side of things. So I think now there's obviously loads of different things where if it's promoted by leaders, that's definitely going to get and people in the community, or just Black people in general, that's going to be the main thing that's going to connect with the kids, and obviously people like yourselves, Craig and Sister and Chakra, your elders that are knowledgeable, and you're definitely passionate about the community. So I feel like it can even, there's loads of Black people as like music artists that can promote these particular grassroots movements. Yeah, so I think that's very important. There's all different types of ways of making money now digitally, where if I was a kid now coming up in a situation where I'm on the street, I'm in a corner where there's a group of us, we're playing football up to no good, smoking weed, getting bored. Okay, there's not much opportunities, right?
Gonna need to land you in a sec, yeah, bro.
Yeah, I'm just gonna land now and say this.
Give facts.
In terms of in terms of having kids go down a road where it's legitimate, there's loads of avenues there. So as I said, I think it's just the solution is the marketing and advertising now, and I just can't see how kids can be going down an avenue when there's so much money to be made online with different strategies, bringing people together and bringing whatever they've got. I'm just going to finish and saying this: bring whatever type of experience or just anything they can bring, skills that you can go online, and then you can help each other out with freelance is a very good website where there's projects, ground root projects from it can be anything, and people can support it, and everybody's going to have an interest. So it's just getting that marketplace where people are going to can get on it. It's not difficult to navigate through, and then people can network and build from there. But there's so much now on offer. So I think it's just be a bit more marketing and actually money behind movements. But yeah, I finished in saying that.
Give thanks, my brother. Good, fantastic contribution, a personal one, and you can do the same, family. Let's click the link in the description if you want to come through and have a word with Brother Craig Pinkney. Do you have any reflections on what the brother has said, Brother Craig?
I think spot on. I think exactly what we've been talking about, and for me, the easiest way to just break that down is just show and prove. Rather than chatting to the young people, show them. So I have conversations with young people about cryptocurrency and all of these digital things that are going on. And the brother's right. There's, there are 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th options. And young people need to come out of the mindset, which is a fixed mindset, that the only way they're going to make it out is by selling drugs or making violent music.
Mm-hmm. Give thanks for that. Give thanks for joining us, my brother Njoku, health and wellness.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah,
family,
everybody. Thank you for the
give thanks. Most def. Like I said, family, you could do the same by we've got somebody who's doing the same right about now. So 1 second. All right, come through, my brother. Yes.
Respect. Manners.
Manners. Greetings and welcome.
Appreciate you getting me on the panel, man. Yeah, big up to Craig, man. I've been following you since the TEDx, the TEDx Brum. I think you're filling a void within academia. It's huge, to be honest. I don't really know. I think you got quite a balanced take on the sort of everything. I would say. Generally, I've just got a couple of questions. In your gangs, music, and the mediatization of crime piece, I think you touched on a couple of things which you sort of addressed earlier regarding. I guess this kind of covers the hypermasculinity and mental health stuff, but the piece you did on sort of narcissism, I thought was quite interesting. Because narcissism is, I would say, in this social media age, kind of increasingly, it's a clearer issue, I think, in this age. I think people coming across narcissism in their day-to-day, maybe 10, 20 years ago, less likely. And I think social media is kind of tuning or sort of rewiring people's brains in a sort of strange way. I don't know. I think that this aspect of like narcissism, when you couple it with the tendency of black cultures to sort of lean on authenticity. So there's this idea of the going from sort of griot culture, the sort of oral history, and maintaining an unbroken chain of facts and truth, essentially. That sort of authenticity, I don't think is a problem. I think it becomes problematic when people are kind of there's like this authentic tragedy to a lot of the music. It's not like triumphant. It's not authentically triumphant. It's authentically tragic in a lot of ways. And being seen as real. Are you real if you've got bodies, or you've got a line out OT, or you got a Rolex, or are you real if you've been able to kind of transcend that? And I think, in your piece, so I'm just scrolling through it now. Actually, this second piece, the narrative identities piece. You talked about the complexities of, I think, performative crime or performance crime, I think you called it, and how academics and the criminal justice system can kind of sift through the narratives to work out what's real, what's exaggerated, what's, and whether or not there's a kind of predictive power to the narratives, and how you think academics or youth workers can sort of maybe preempt some of the stuff that's going on by sort of reading these narratives. Because I get the vibe that if you go back sort of maybe 10 years, a lot of youth clubs, people used to clash. Little crews used to clash in youth clubs, but I wrote this generic lyric for any soundboard that comes up in front of me. It's not this specific talking about the op that you got down last week, or this like it's become so hyper specific. I think that it's almost I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say, but how can you sort of sift through those narratives to work out some sort of solutions, if there's any sort of solutions to be gleaned from that?
So one of the things that I'm doing in my PhD, and I think your question's a PhD question, but I'll try my best the way that I can. I'll say, wait a year and a half or so, and then I'll give you.
Yeah, man. God willing, I got the time, man. So yeah.
I guess one of the things that I'm looking at, and I'll start with the first part where you asked about narcissism, and one of the premises that I'm presenting in my literature is that social media platforms create narcissistic tendencies. So I'm not suggesting that our young people are narcissistic, but when you look at a number of documentaries, I remember Panorama, I'm sure, done a documentary not too long ago, and the question was, is Facebook making our children obsessed? And a lot of psychology goes into a lot of the gaming, a lot of the kind of visuals that are on social media platforms, with the premise that they want people to stay on platforms and keep buying and keep engaging. So when I talk about narcissism, just take a look at the development of things like Snapchat, Instagram, other platforms like TikTok. It's all about me. You know, just look at me and look what I'm doing. So as innocent as it may be, just look at me and look what I'm doing. So when I'm talking about young people that engage in violent behaviors, they're also doing it too, because it's a form of communication. They're finding ways to communicate with each other, and they're using the exact same platforms that you and I, adults, and other young people are using. But there's one thing that I missed. So you've also got to bear in mind that when I wrote that article was a couple of years ago. So when I wrote that article, one of the things that I didn't speak about was the role of nihilism.
Yes.
And the role that nihilism plays, and how all of the factors that we've discussed today in the show creates nihilistic tendencies. And then I argue, when those individuals that are nihilistic, that have this mindset of, I just want to don a man's dance, I'm carrying my knife, I'm carrying my burn, I don't care what the situation is. They even make songs about it. I don't want to die young, I'd rather get judged by what than carried by. And they talk about this stuff in their lyrics. So with this particular mindset, when those individuals come into contact with social media that's narcissistic, I argue when that nihilism and that narcissism joins together, and someone then critiques or debates any narrative that they're projecting, that helps us to understand why there's a shooting 24 hours later. So that's why when I talk about drill music in my local community, I say that whilst, yes, it's around art, it's around expression, and whilst we have to respect what young people are coming with, we also have to have an honest discussion about those multinational corporations and organizations that give that lottery ticket to our community and say, talk about killing niggas, bitches, and hoes, slaughtering your own children, slaughtering your own people, just because you can get a little money and you can go to Dubai and you can go on a show. To what extent, though, is the question that I ask. So I don't knock a man that wants to get out the hood via making music, but to what extent? Because just like drugs, and a man can say, well, I'm making this money in order to get out of the hood, but you're destroying the community whilst you're doing it through selling of your drugs. And just like the music is what I also understand is that, as you mentioned, that the music is such that the young people are talking about what they did yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's that descriptive right now that we are able to find out what's going on and what might happen 24 hours later. So with a music video that just dropped in Birmingham, I can tell you in the next 10 days, if not already, there's gonna be gunshots going off. And that's the part where we have to have the honest conversations as a community. And what we should stop doing is just constantly making excuses when our children are going out there murdering each other. And we as parents and men in the community need to stand up and say wrong is wrong. But then also the added part is we can't talk about wrong is wrong unless we're prepared to come with a solution too. And that's where we need to stick together and think about what those solutions ultimately look like.
100%. I think you're onto it as well with the nihilism and narcissism thing, because I think, essentially, if narcissism is a path to, and do you know what? As well, I think there's a lot more nihilists out there than there is narcissists, because a narcissist will still care about themselves. You're seeing a lot of youths who they don't care about anything, including themselves. They see themselves as I don't know, and I think that feeds back into the whole self-esteem issues that sort of that crop up with young people. 100%, man.
Give thanks.
Appreciate it.
We got somebody else in the
Yeah,
wing,
man,
so I'm gonna have to
respect.
let you go, bro. But give
But
thanks
that's
for your
manners,
contribution.
man. Yeah, enough respect.
Yeah, love. Yeah, that was a heavyweight contribution right there. And if you want to get more of Craig's road to PhD status, you can check out CraigPinkney.com, kings and queens. The articles and the essays that the brother was reading from are actually on the website. Yeah, so if you click the publications tab, you can download them for free. All right, you know, some of these papers, and it's very important that. Like, reading is important, but oftentimes, you know, some of the things that we need to read are in papers and not books. They're not books yet. In the academic world, a lot of the more recent cutting edge stuff are not published in books yet. Yeah, they're in papers, not books, right? So do check out these things, and when you get people like Brother Craig who are making it, because a lot of the time these papers are not accessible to the general public. Yeah, that's just the world of academia, right? Yeah, you have to have resources and connections to institutions to get access to these papers, right? So we have to bear that in mind. And when brothers like Craig, you know, are making it accessible to the community, as a community, we have to make sure that we utilize the resources. Yeah, they're making it accessible. Let's do our work. And as a sister said earlier, spread it and share it far and wide. This is probably going to be our last contribution from the floor, from the viewers today. So, brother MA is in the building. Yeah, you're very low, bro. We're gonna have to hear you because I'm 90% sure you're gonna come with another PhD conversation. So,
can you hear me?
Yeah, but you're low. Yeah, you sound far, Bridget.
I'm on like a new headset. I'm trying to
See them new headsets there, man. Let's go back to old school.
No earphones there, no earphones.
I bet you spent some money on it as well. Listen, I had the same situation with my new MacBook, thinking that I could just jump on to this thing and it just mashed me up. I should have went back to my old Microsoft laptop.
Analog life.
If I speak louder, is that gonna work?
We can hear you better now.
If we shut up, we can hear you.
All right, give thanks everybody. I missed a portion of the show because my computer shut down actually. And yeah, I'm loving what I'm hearing. I think the question I wanted to ask, I guess, is, and you may have touched upon it during the time when I weren't able to hear, but what differences can you predict or do you know? And this is for everybody, including you, Shakira. What differences can you predict or do you know of between the environment or the effects of the environment on the youth when you lot were in Saturday school in comparison to today? And how do you best combat those things? And I'm thinking social media, of course, on the back of that last contribution. And how do you prepare for that? I don't know if you guys spoke about that before, but yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, we did cover it. I think one of the things that I was talking about was in terms of my journey and what I feel that's missing in terms of our current generation. And I think one of the things that I think Shaka just kind of alluded to is this idea about we need to have intellect. And what I mean by that is a lot of us come into this work and want to change things in our community, and we just work with passion. And passion's cool, I'm with it, but we need to also understand the space that we're in. You know, no army sends out its soldiers and doesn't understand the landscape. And I feel that we're entering into these kind of conversations and we all want to do, we have the heart to want to do, but we don't understand the landscape. So more and more we invest in time in understanding the landscape, then we understanding, okay, well, then what's my tool? So my tool might be education. The sister's tool might be in early years. The brother's tool may be in media. Your tool might be in business and entrepreneurship. But as a collective, we all have both the passion and the intellect to contribute to individuals that are on the landscape. What my worry and concern is that we're just kind of romanticizing these conversations, but we're not moving forward with the action. So we just sit behind our passion, but don't invest in no time in the knowledge to be able to do so. And that's those individuals that I'm around, those individuals that I train on my day-to-day. That's ultimately what my objective is, being able to respond to what's going on, because I'm just one human being and I've got my own family. I've got my own things that I want to do. I want to travel. I want to live life too. I can't be at the hospital 24/7. I can't be answering calls 24/7 to parents and going to funerals every other week. But despite all of that, there needs to be a collective, and that's why the sister that came before, that's what I was saying, is that we almost passed the baton on. So whilst we take the baton from our parents and our grandparents, we then got to get to a place where we pass that baton on to the next generation so they can continue that. And what they do is they observe our strengths. They observe the things that we did really well. They look at some of our weaknesses and our limitations, and then we execute and adapt what that is in real time.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know you said it was for everyone, MA, so I'm going to put it to Sister Mott as well if she got a contribution.
Sure. I suppose compared to, and it goes back to what your wife was saying earlier, you know, in terms of young, you know, how our elders are, you know, spoken about, if you like. I tell you what I've learned as a parent is one thing that's very, very different from, you know, being a 70s child is instant gratification age. Yeah, and this attention economy at the same time. Like our parents never had that, yeah, and it's something to navigate. And one of the things I think I get that young people, they get to a point, like my smaller ones are primary school age. You can teach them delayed gratification at this stage. However, as they go into something like secondary age or that kind of teen mind, yeah, everything hits them and they have access to things, you know, like they can have a Facebook at 13. The world is in contradiction with, you know, seeks to undermine you as a parent. That's the first thing. Yeah, it undermines you in a way that our parents could cover us on some level if we wanted to be covered. Yeah, now our children can be exposed to things we can't cover them from. Yeah, and I think we have to have much more conversations and communications with our children, young people, yeah, about all the different things that are coming up as and when. Whether it's love, you know, whether it's love, whether it's arguments, whether it's, you know, emotional intelligence is a really important thing. And a lot of the things that we are parents, you know, Craig was talking about just in his videos and things about the dysfunctionalities and things like that go on in the home and the households and stuff like that. And we can't assume that nothing's going on at home all the time. Like we can't, yeah, we have to be real that things happen, especially in these times where we know domestic violence and that is up by 25%. We know this, yeah. So one of the things we have to look at is how we communicate in these times, how we delay gratification in these times, how we teach them about the attention economy. Like right now I'm here doing this, but my children, you know, they know that I use this space. I say, this is the studio, you lot are right now in the green room, yeah. I let them know that this is not real. Yeah, I encourage them to see what is not real a lot, like from they're very young. I taught them personally. I taught my children about marketing from when they were in the buggy. You know, when you go to the supermarket and you've got sweets at the shelf. Yeah. So I taught them from a very young age that was marketing. It was designed for you to see it before me. Yeah. And I think these are the kinds of things, conversations, if you've got young children, older children, you grow as they grow. Yeah. We don't know it all. We're not up against it like they are. They've got so many different factors. Yeah. As much as, especially for boys, emasculating them. Yeah. As they do. Yeah. So we as parents have a duty of care to keep them in their masculine, to keep them feeling like men who can achieve, giving them aspiration, and keeping an eye on all the different factors that go on around them, like not disassociating ourselves from it. Yeah, so that's kind of my answer to that.
Yeah, I'll just add, agreeing with what everybody has said prior to, so I won't repeat what has been said, but I'll just add to with that agreement. Two factors. The first is drugs. Yeah, and if you're an 80s baby, 80s baby were the first real generation that had to deal with drugs as a factor, as an economic factor in the community. Our parent generation didn't have to deal with that. Yeah. In fact, they were the young adults who that was imposed on, if you know anything about the history of Broadwater Farm and them kind of things there. And I think that the drugs thing, you know, I mean, I'm sure Craig can tell you from a more academic point of view, but drugs shifts the makeup of communities, in very significant ways. All right. So I think, and if you're young and coming up in that environment, it has a profound impact. So that's one dynamic. The second, which is a little bit more subtle, is I think that over the years, because of all these other different social factors, as generations have gone on, there's been a diminished sense of community. In the sense of the understanding that we are a part of this larger group of people. That kind of awareness and having that kind of cultural sensibility, I think, instinctively creates certain behavior, in people, if that makes sense. And when that is diminished, you're more open to just the society in general. So I think too that those two factors are quite significantly important. And by way of solutions, I'm very and I'm going to ask Craig a question about this in a sec, because as we begin to wrap up, but I'm on the point that of what Craig actually just said in terms of the expertise, because a lot of the times we're doing things again with high passion but low resources and low levels of expertise, and so sometimes that affects our effectiveness, if that makes sense. It's a little bit more study, a little bit more theory, you know what I'm saying, like in terms of learning, like you said, the landscape would probably yield us more benefits in terms of the effectiveness, so for the effort that we're putting out in that regard, you know what I'm saying. So I feel like there's a need for a lot of training in our community, training centers and schools and institutions that are churning out people that are doing certain work, if that makes sense. And I hope that answers that question.
Give thanks. I just want to make one last little comment quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah. Speed. I'll do a twister. Yeah. So no. I just wanted to say, give thanks for everyone for all the contributions. I think one thing to bear in mind moving forward is to also observe, while we're building, is to observe what our limitations are. Those limitations may be owing to our location. I think the potential for constructing African-centered education in Africa is always going to be wider. It's always going to be more well-resourced in terms of having the space to do as one pleases. And I think if we use that potential as a marker, we can kind of move forward as well and consider what those limitations may be here. You just mentioned community. I happen to be a person that's lucky enough to live close by to 5 of my relatives, and that's a rarity in London. So yeah, just a last little comment there for everyone to consider. All right.
Give facts on that. Yeah, you know what? More on that African-centered education in Africa thing on another day. Yeah, just stay tuned for all that conversation. But thank you very much, MA. Thank you for that.
Give thanks.
Right, brother Craig. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up soon. Yeah, and there's a million questions that we've got to make sure that we get you on Gotkush more. You know what I'm saying? And these things, because the work that you're doing is important, and the insight that you provide is important for our community. I have a question in relation to some of what you said earlier, and I know somebody in the audience is thinking this, because you spoke earlier about two things that youth them want: is survival when they want to make money, and then brother earlier spoke about nihilism and narcissism, and there's a concept that is associated with that, which is materialism. And so my question for you then is that if we're teaching the youth them to survive and make money, and I know, like, for example, coming from this Pan-African space, it's about principles and values. How are we ensuring that we're not just churning out people that are legal but have materialistic value system, if that makes sense?
I think it's a perfect and I think it's an amazing question, to be totally honest. And I think that links to what your kind of wife has said, really, is about how do we change the conversation. Right. And I'll be totally honest, there's not one way to the conversation. And I think that's the point that I made about the issues that we're faced with, the complex, the multifaceted, and the nuanced. So I may have a particular position on how I engage with young people, but you may have a different position. It's cool because we're both sitting on the same road, we're sitting in the same car, going to the same destination. As long as I respect what you're doing and you respect what I'm doing, but understanding that our end goal is ultimately the same. So the way that you view certain values and principles may be slightly different to mine, and that's okay. I think the problem is then when we all have this kind of static notion that we all think and behave the same, and unless somebody doesn't do it this way, that means then they're just an outsider. And that's kind of why young people join those subgroups, because they feel like outsiders out of every single group that's ultimately created. So we need to think, consider what are kind of the push and pull factors first and foremost of what pulls young people in. And then we need to think about a way in which we can engage young people. And that's why I kept saying that there's nothing wrong with us going back to what those kind of traditional mindsets are, but we just need to adapt, and we need to just be realistic. And we're in a so-called capitalist society, as one of the brothers came in and said. There's so many avenues to make money, we can't ignore that.
Yes.
And the moment we keep ignoring things, what happens then is we observe other communities, take that with both hands, and then we just then become a community of excuses and saying, look, this is what everybody else has done, because people have realized that their values and belief systems are intact. But understanding that in the time that we're in, we might need to go into economics, we might need to go into a little bit of politics. And of course, let's be honest, we know that there's going to be sellouts and individuals that are going to go into those spaces and turn their back on their people. But I don't come from that kind of background of believing all of us are going to do that, because I went into education and didn't lose myself. I went to the highest form of education and never turned my back on my community. So I don't really have that kind of mindset that all of our people are going to go into these particular spaces and lose themselves. So if my family was able to kind of keep my values and those values of our family and of our community intact, then why can't we do this in a contemporary sense? But we've got to learn how to engage with people. As a youth worker, it's Youth Work 101. Forget about everything else. Learn how to engage with other human beings and then bring forth. That's the problem. We want to bring forth the package, but we don't know the basics of engaging with people. And just like as a sister works in early years and works with parents, if you can't chat to parents, then giving them a guide to something means nothing. And that's the part that we need to get through. Communication is key.
Powerful. My last question for me, then we'll give Sister a go. And you know what, what you just said brought to mind this recent race report, which we won't go into, but yeah, that would be an interesting topic.
I think that reflected what I was just alluding to.
Yeah. So I'm saying so yeah. But I want to focus on manhood for a sec, Brother Craig, right? Because there are certain specific challenges and certain specific narratives that are associated with manhood, and us as men, and the kind of men that we produce and become, and the impact that has on our communities. And also this idea of the fact that we are either positioned as toxic or neglectful. Do you know what I'm saying? Our presence is toxic, and our absence is neglect, right? There's not a lot of in between, in terms of characterizations of black men. Just a quick thought. This is a larger conversation, really, from you, in terms of the importance of the work that you're doing, in terms of creating principled men, developing principled ideals of manhood, and how that manifests in our community.
I think that's a powerful, and I do believe that is another topic in discussion. I think the most simplest way that I will put it is, all men are not the same. And we need to be men that are prepared to show other men and women, by the way, I think the sister was also alluding to that earlier on, that we need to show manhood in a range of different ways, that rites of passage. And that's why I keep going back to the idea that we should use our traditional ways and values, just adapt it in a different type of way. So I'll give you just one perfect example, and it will probably make sense to what I'm saying. So there's a colleague, a friend of mine, Lady Liz Pemberton. She was a nursery manager at a local nursery in the city. Predominantly black kids that were in this particular space. And one of the things that she acknowledged was her black children needed both men and women in that space, but predominantly women in that space. So she brought in an array of black men, so the children were able to see. So I was the alpha male, you know, Craig coming, we're loud, we're gonna thump up some punching bags, we're gonna do some press ups, we're just doing all of that. Yeah, but the Kwesi that would come in, that would play chess, Asante would come in and play chess with the community. So he's more humble, and his approach is slightly different. Still a man, we're both still men, but what you're showing children is not everybody has to be hyper masculine 24/7. And I think that's the importance of having different men in the space to show young people the differences. And that's why I go back to, and that's why I said again that I wasn't disrespecting. I hope that hasn't come across from what I've been saying. That's why I haven't disrespected those that have come before. Because whilst I was at Saturday school, we had different types of men that would teach us. You know, so we had Matumbo on one day, and then we had Beanie Brown on the next day that was just cussing us left, right, and center. And then we'd have somebody else that was just completely different, all men. So whilst exposing our children to loads of different types of men, both male and female, enables us to enables them to discover those kind of complex ideas and identities that they're able to kind of look at and think, okay, this is what I want to do. And one of the speakers in the questions were kind of alluding to this as well, that when you look on social media, it's just one form of masculinity, femininity, or hyper-masculinity or hyper-femininity that we're seeing. So young people believe in this narrative that in order for me to be cool and get by, I need to walk with my trousers halfway down my backside, or I need to be loud and I need to go on with myself in order to be recognized. When what we're saying here is, now you don't need to be like that. You can be a man of principle and be the most quiet person in the room. Because here what? And I say this enough for the youths I work with, you see the baddest man when I work in prisons is the one that don't talk. He's not the one that's not loud and going on with himself. He's the one that's humble, is listening, is attentive, he wants to pay attention. But these young youths believe the narrative that I need to be loud and go on with myself in order to be seen and recognized. So then that gives us a deeper conversation about what is it that these young people want, and what did the question just say not too long ago? They want to be seen, they want attention. So again, when we talk about our solution to the problem as educators, as those that are invested in change in the community, we need to listen to what young people are saying that they want. So if they want to be heard and they want to be seen, then we need to create platforms in order for them to be seen and heard. I'm not being maybe a specialist in media, but I'm sure, Shaki, you can teach a couple of youths them how to use the camera, how to set up a podcast. And then I then can come in and teach them something else about entrepreneurship. The sister can come in and say, well, if anybody's interested in parenting early years or whatever, and that's how we work collectively. But we all may be different slightly on the approach, and that's cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Give thanks for that. Sister Mort?
Yeah, just in closing, you've spoken about parents and maybe adults and how they can engage. And I think I would like to maybe just my closing question would be, how can other young people, what advice do you give to other young people who are not engaged in this life that a lot of young people are in terms of the negatives, the violence and things like that? And what kind of interventions could other young people do with other young people?
Sorry, say that last part again, sister. I didn't catch you.
What interventions can young people, we know what kind of interventions we can do, yeah? But let's say you've got a young person the same age as them now.
Yes.
Yeah? What young interventions can young people, let's say there's young people listening to this, not engaged in this kind of life, yeah? But they want to help, they want to be, and we've been talking about the adults most of the day, right? What interventions can the other young people realistically give to other young people?
So based on your question, is something that we roll out in my organization. So we run peer mentoring for young people, because young people understand that there are other young people their age group and older that may need that extra assistance and support. So one of our projects that we run is called Alternative Routes. So Alternative Routes is about making young people socially aware of the issues that may impact them. So it's not all kids that are involved in criminality. We're talking about the good kids too, because they need to be engaged as well. Our focus can't just be on the ones that are causing problems. It also needs to be on the good kids. So Alternative Routes raises the awareness of some of the issues that our children are impacted in society. All of those issues from alcohol, substance misuse, mental health, gangs, youth violence, sexual health, you name it. But one of the key things that we provide is around financial literacy, because that goes back to the point where I'm saying that this is what the youths are saying that they want to know. So we do things like Dragon's Den, you know, give them a little idea and come up with a little money and then fund some of the things that they ultimately can do and that they can roll out. You know, a young person said something like, listen, I'm going to come up with a business and I'm going to get my granddad, my nan, and I'm going to start washing their cars for £2. Now we can be like, why? Back in the day, that was just free. We used to have to do that as normal chores, but these young people are savvy now. They're thinking of ways. My daughter the other day, I asked her to do something for me and it's joke. And she said, Dad, I'll do it for 50 pence. And I'm thinking, you mean 50 pence to do something that I used to have to do to my parents? But you know what? It made me laugh when I give her a 50p. And that's what I'm talking about, adapting and not just always being harsh and being a human being. So a lot of those young people that want to give back and want to do something, our peer mentoring program that we roll out for young people, and we've had young people as young as 11 on the program up until the age of 21, because we know everybody wants to give back. So I guess in conclusion, everything that I ultimately do in the center of youth violence and conflict is not just about working with the bad kids, but preventing violence and supporting both children, young people and their families so they can deal with these particular issues and to predict what's to come next so they can put the appropriate things in place.
Excellent. Great.
Thank you very much, Brother Craig. Yeah, you've brought something special to our Quarantine Convos today. We truly appreciate you and your time and your continued work. And no doubt, yeah, we're going to have to connect some more because we've just touched the surface of a lot of these issues. And our job is to just magnify, create the magnification for a lot of this work and these ideas and these programs and these principles and these ideals and these methods and these strategies and expose our community to them. Once again, family, if you want to hear and see more from Brother Craig, want to get in contact, check out CRAIGPINKNEY.com. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You can get an insight into all his work, some of his written work, you know, some of his workshops, his trainings, and other projects as well. Kings and Queens do so. And once again, my brother, respect. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you as well for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, we'll be in contact for sure.
Give thanks for that, Brother Craig Pinkney, Kings and Queens. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, you just have to know, say, people like that exist. Yeah, they're both. And then I'm going with things. How you feeling, Sister Mo?
Yeah, powerful. You know, it was really, really powerful conversation, and especially on the back of the conversation we already had at the beginning about DMX. You know what I mean? It's great to be able to see the masculine presence, but also effectiveness. You understand what I'm saying? It's all about effectiveness. You could be masculine all day long and not be effective. You understand? So I think it's really powerful that he's effective in what he's doing and accomplishing and resourceful. And he gives us as parents and as young people, he gives everybody something to go away with that he has done this evening. So yeah, give thanks. That was food for the soul.
Certainly. I know we missed out a couple of things at the top of the show, you know, Sister Mo. So
yeah, go ahead.
Touching them briefly. There was a few things that we missed out. So we touched on you touched on wait, what did we miss out?
We talked about DMX, we did indeed, and we talked a little bit about
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent.
What's it called? All right, so let me say that recently, a number of outlets, including the BBC, I'm going to read from the BBC thing. It says, Burkina Faso exiled ex-president Blaise Compaoré is to be tried for the assassination of his predecessor, Thomas Sankara, a Pan-African icon, during the 1987 coup in which he took power. The case was referred Tuesday to the military court in Ouagadougou after the confirmation of charges against the main defendants, including Blaise Compaoré, after 34 years after the death of the father of the Burkinabe revolution, according to defense lawyers and civil parties. I won't go on except to say Blaise is responsible for the murder, the assassination of Baba Thomas Sankara in 1987. And Baba Thomas Sankara, for those who may not be aware, is a revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso between 1983 and 1987. Time doesn't allow for us to go into the list of achievements, but just a couple. Yeah, first, that revolutionary government made that nation of Burkina Faso food self-sufficient, yeah, in the space of 4 years. And they were food self-sufficient whilst refusing loans from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and other foreign investment from French and other and the Americans and everybody. They weren't, because Thomas Sankara says he who feeds you controls you, yeah. And so he refused a lot of the foreign aid, the foreign investment, loans from the IMF, but they were still able to make Burkina Faso food self-sufficient. Another one is the fact that the desertification, the expansion of the desert in the north region was challenged and battled because he was able to engage the whole country to plant over 2 million trees. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, and along with many other achievements, but he was an enemy. He was considered an enemy by the French because he wasn't acceding to the demands of French neocolonialism. So they incorporated, you know, some sellouts, including Blaise, to assassinate him. Right. So man is welcoming this charge here of Blaise. And by the way, Blaise Compaoré remained a dictator at the helm of the Burkina Faso government up until was it 2014 or 2016 when he was overthrown, and he was backed by the French for that period of time from 1987 to just a few years ago. All right. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's good that he stands trial, but if justice is truly to be done, then the French government and the French secret agencies need to also be on trial for the assassination of Baba Thomas Sankara. So I just wanted to mention that, you know what I'm saying? So big up the people of Burkina Faso. Man stands with you, do you know what I'm saying, in these efforts, and hopefully this child seeks to lead to a revival of the kind of government that Thomas Sankara was in the process of building. Yeah,
100%.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like there was something else though, you know. I know there's one other thing, but I feel like there's something else that we missed out.
There might be, yeah. But you know, we could wait. You know what? They've had enough tonight. They've had enough tonight. You know, like, don't spoil them.
Yes, indeed. I will say one more thing. Yeah, yesterday there was a vote in the House, the House Judiciary, yeah, in the United States government, and they basically passed HR 40 on to the Congress, basically. So there's a long process in terms of getting certain bills passed in the United States of America. But HR 40 is a bill that is designed to push the reparations agenda, yeah, for Africans in America. And so it's past one stage of government, and now it has to be discussed in the Congress, yeah, which is really, you know, the place where the power exists in the United States. So there's a shout out to the organizations like NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, and NARC, the National African Americans Reparations Alliance, I believe, something like that. Anyway, yeah, no, African American Alliance for Reparations or something like that. Anyway, the organizers that have been on the ground, yeah, on the reparations thing in the United States of America for a long time, you know, a lot of effort has been put in. So we just want to shout out to you and stand in solidarity with you also.
For real.
All right, I think that's it, Sister Mo. What do you reckon?
There you go. I think we've done a service tonight. Yep, absolutely. You got
food. What I'm gonna ask you to do though is give us the proverb one more time. Let's give us the proverb.
The proverb here, yes. The proverb is, hold on, give me a second. I'm just going here. The proverb, maybe we should start with it and end with it. How about that?
Yes, sir.
The proverb is, a warrior fights with courage, not with anger.
A warrior fights with courage, not with anger, Kings.
And you know what? Just a sidebar. I found out in about a year ago that Mut in German means courage.
See? Just say it. Go on. Well, there, Kings and Queens. We give thanks.
You know that. We
give thanks.
So yes, man.
This has been Quarantine Convos, hosted by myself, Shakara, and Sister Mut. We have been speaking to Brother Craig Pinkney. Do want to let you know that next week we'll be speaking to Sister Abby Usher, who is a holistic healer. And following that, we're going to be speaking to Chief Fode and Sister Malinka Man, sorry, over there in Sierra Leone. Yeah, enough things are going on in Sierra Leone right about now, family. So do stay tuned for that. Every Thursday, Quarantine Convos, every Thursday from 7 p.m. right here on Got Kush TV. If you are not subscribed to Got Kush TV, subscribe to Got Kush TV. Hit the bell and hit the like button. In fact, before you leave, yeah, hit the like button on this video and the last 10 videos. Just hit like, yeah, if you haven't hit like already.
Share, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, man, share, comment, and subscribe all about the place, Kings and Queens.
Yeah,
right? You stay tuned. Visit gotkushtv.com and sign up to our mailing list to stay in tune with all your Got Kush TV hot off the press news, information, views, and reviews, Kings and Queens. We will be back next week for Quarantine Convos, next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Yeah, right here on Got Kush TV. Remember that, and always remember, you ain't got nothing.
Got nothing.
Ain't got
Kush.
2020. A year of many unforeseen challenges, where all had to adjust to a new reality. And despite it all, Got Kush TV was and still is here to serve you. And what a year it's been. We began the repatriation journey with our new show, Voyage to Motherland. We dropped the knowledge as you took your seats in the Kush Criminologist and joined us to hold a meds with the Ankh Doc. Got Kush TV invited you to get involved in controversial conversation and enter Decipher. And when the world went into lockdown, we kept you connected with the Quarantine Convos. We kept our finger on the pulse of the community with coverage of the Reparations Rebellion and the Black Pound Day all day up. Not to mention more wordsmiths and a slew of new music video releases for your viewing pleasure and the official launch of the Got Kush TV website. We also brought you events including Women of Power and of course Black Trinity. Now, in 2021, Got Kush TV is continuing to level up the thing. First up, we are pleased to inform you that gotkushtv.com is open to exclusive memberships. Sign up to any of our membership tiers and you will gain access to playbacks from all our events and an ever-growing list of exclusive original content, including interviews, documentaries, and shows such as Kush University. To become an official member of gotkushtv.com, simply hit the membership tab. Stay tuned for continued updates. Then there's the new show. Look out for more Decipher, Wordsmith, Hold and Meds with the Ankh Doctor, and weekly episodes of Quarantine Convos focused on health, wellness, education, and inspiration for our community. As always, the Got Kush TV film team is available for hire to cover all your events, adverts, infomercials, and all filming needs. Visit us at gotkushtv.com for hire inquiries and more information. Stand by all black businesses through our website, social media, and show content. We have monumental advertising, sponsorship, and network opportunities catering specially for you. Check out the advertising page on gotkushtv.com for more information. Got Kush TV is in full flight to join us for the ride. There's 4 things you can do. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell to make sure you don't miss a release. Join us on all social media and hit up gotkushtv.com to subscribe to our mailing list and sign up to become a Got Kush TV member for exclusive opportunities in the near future. Let us know you are feeling our content by hitting that ever so important button of approval. Comment. We want to hear your feedback on everything we are putting out. So make sure your presence is felt in the comment section. Share. Spread the word by hitting that share button and exposing your circle to the magnificence that is Got Kush TV. We are looking forward to building with you throughout 2021 and servicing you with high quality Black media production. Got Kush TV, beyond discussion, beyond debate. We put the power in Black media.
Quarantine Convos. Enjoy weekly discussions with people from around the world assisting us in dealing with this normal, mentally, spiritually and physically. We feature nutritionists, psychologists, therapists, personal trainers, home educators, legal experts and more, bringing you all the information and inspiration you need. Check out Quarantine Convos every Thursday from 7 p.m. live on Got Kush TV.